Yo, what up, y'all? How you guys doing tonight? I know I wasn't supposed to start the show till 8 p.m. Eastern. Decided to get started early, and I know I got a glare on me. I got the light going, the fan going. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for being here. I'm RicoKnows, and I talk to you guys about every single college player in America. That's what I do. I'm also a capper. I also pick fights. We got a big UFC fight coming up this weekend. If you want to do all that stuff, get to Patreon. Search RicoKnows. That's all it is. RicoKnows. RicoKnows. This is what I do. So, it's the NFL Draft. And you guys know the deal. I do my rankings. We already put out an episode on the quarterbacks. We already put out an episode on the running backs. And now, tonight, we're talking about the wide receivers. All right? So I'm going to get into the wide receivers because there's a whole lot of guys to talk about. And I don't want to be here all night. I know a lot of you guys are going to jump in the chat. If you're watching me right now on YouTube, on TikTok, move over to YouTube and drop a comment in the chat. I will get to the chat at some point. I let it build up, and then I go answer every single question. Please don't repeat yourself. Don't spam it. I will get to you. I'd love no questions, to be honest. All right, so this is my top 10 for the NFL Draft when it comes to wide receivers. But before we break it down, let me tell you guys something. Wide receivers are a dime a dozen. There are 35 wide receivers being drafted every single year, on average. 35 last year, 32, 28, 34. Every now and then you get a 37. And most of the time it's around 35. Okay, and the reason I bring that up is it's obvious my top 10, I'm going to be missing somebody. There's so many people to choose from. And when you go look at ESPN, the lamest thing they did was they just did 37 guys. 37. That's all the wide receivers they anticipate getting drafted. That's what they're rocking with. About 35 to 37 get drafted. And I can tell you right now, on this list, the vast majority of them are FBS players. There might be one. Is Chism on here? Nope. None. They're all FBS players. Well, I can tell you that's not happening. There's going to be a draft pick from the FCS level 100%. Okay, and I'll get into that. Efton's going to get drafted, and some of these guys aren't going to get drafted. And we'll talk about it. But please understand that the Combine invited 41 wide receivers, bro. 41 wide receivers to the Combine. So the competition is stiff already. There's a lot of good players out there. And I'll go through them. I'm going to skim through them very quickly. I'll go more in depth as I talk about some of the top players and stuff. But Andrew Armstrong, statistically one of the better wide receivers out of Arkansas. I'm not too impressed with his tape, but I understand some people are picking him as a deep sleeper. Consider me asleep. All right, I'm sleeping on that like you wouldn't believe. I'm sleeping on him. Elic Aomanor, Stanford. You know, I never met the young man. I've never talked to him in the DMs or anything. I talked to a lot of these players in the DMs. I've never talked to him, but I'd imagine he's very mature. He just comes across as cerebral and mature on his tape. You just look at him, you're like, that's a grown man playing. Now, NFL scouts, one guy told me he shows too much of his chest. And what he's talking about is his stance before the snap. He's got too much of his chest exposed, so he can be jammed. And he's like, Travis Hunter dominated him by jamming him. We must have watched a different game, bro. This is the man that beat Travis Hunter for 200 million yards in the second half, absolutely dominated, and Colorado lost the game to Stanford 2 years ago. This is a man amongst boys. Elijah Badger transferring to Florida this year from Arizona State. Doesn't really move me that much. Think he's okay. Jack Beck, highly productive wide receiver at TCU. Obviously a transfers in. You know, his brother just passed away, unfortunately. And I just want to say about Jack Beck, I don't think he's an NFL caliber player. Call it what you want. Isaiah Bond, been a fan of Isaiah Bond for a long time. He's not in my top 10. Isaiah Bond has always come across as a kid who been hyped for his athleticism, but never really had the production that warrants the rankings or the athletic. Like let me explain. I think he does less with more, right? When I was watching him at Buford here in Georgia, I was watching him at Buford, and I thought, man, that's the fastest kid in the state. Oh, he's the state champ in the 100, the 200, whatever. He's running his ass off. He looks amazing. And then they don't win state titles. And then they just don't quite get it done on the field. And then I'm watching him at Alabama, and what's he known for? The big catch against Auburn to win the game. It's a historic catch. But he really wasn't the leading receiver on the team at any point in time. And when you transfer to Texas and you're supposed to be the leading receiver there, you kind of get outshined by Matthew Golden, which it boggles the mind. And I just kind of look at Isaiah Bond like, you're not a bad kid. I think he's a good kid. You know what? I did this long lecture during the live stream yesterday, and I talked about how drafting players is investing in millionaires. Like, you're investing in these players, and you're investing millions. And I feel like that's one of these cases where Isaiah Bond is not a bad player to invest in. He's a really well-spoken young man. He's put together. You can trust that he's going to show up and be a professional. But the part about playing football on Sundays worries me. I don't know. It just doesn't get it done. Ja'Cory Brooks, transferring out of Alabama, going to Louisville, becoming the star receiver there, Mr. Dependable. I watch a lot of tape on Ja'Cory Brooks. We bet a lot of money on Louisville this year. I'm not that sold on Ja'Cory Brooks, personally, not. Sam Brown Jr. is him. I'll talk about him a lot later in the rankings. Shout out to him in Miami. Pat Bryant, I'm going to talk about him later in the show. Really like him a lot. Luther Burden III. This is a 5-star wide receiver coming out of high school. A lot of hype around him because he decided to stay home in Missouri. You got a 5-star receiver. He's smooth as butter, man. He's fast. But I've watched him disappear in games that matter. If you go back and watch Luther Burden, and maybe you're a box score scout, just go back and watch box scores. And then go turn on the tape of those games where he shut down. He just disappears in conference play. I don't like a young man who dominates Ball State but can't dominate in the SEC. And that's Luther Burden III for me. You can blame the quarterback all you want, but there's other receivers on Missouri that were effective in the SEC, and Luther Burden wasn't. For the vast majority of his career, 3 years of production, Luther Burden has never impressed me consistently in conference games. Nope, just disappears. As a matter of fact, we would bet his under. I would tell MVPs, yo, just bet his under. Just bet it. He's not going to hit the numbers that you think he's hitting. Bo Collins, that's a Clemson transfer going to Notre Dame. He's always had prototypical size. They've always liked Bo Collins coming out of high school. The evaluation, he has all the right metrics. I've never seen him do anything on a Saturday that warrants you knowing his name. Real talk. DK was a superstar player coming out of high school in Wisconsin. I say superstar. He won the Al Toon Award. And if anybody remembers Al Toon, man, that dude was special for the Jets. Late 80s, early, I had a football card of his in the 90s. But nonetheless, DK's a good player, and he ran a hell of a lot faster than people anticipated at the combine. So it's kind of sneaky. Like, we're not sure what to do with that. Emeka Egbuka, I believe, is a can't-miss prospect. I believe he's known goods for a while now. Going back to Ohio State, they always talk about that $22 million roster at Ohio State. All of it was about keeping NFL-caliber players for another year. And Egbuka is one of those guys. I think he's a stud wide receiver, getting it done, Mr. Dependable. No, he's not the alpha male in the room. No, he's not going to wow you. He's not a future Hall of Famer or anything like that. He's not a bad player, though. Daquan Felton, another transfer, going to Virginia or leaving Virginia Tech. I want to say he was playing at FCS Norfolk State and never really stood out to me while at Virginia Tech. Remember, they had 3 transfers at Virginia Tech. That was Jalen Lane, Allie Jennings, and Daquan. He was the least, I guess, publicized or exciting one of the 3, but he stayed healthy. And when those other 2 get injured and you don't go out and put up a ton of production, I don't get too excited. Yes, he's huge. He's tall, lanky, but doesn't move me like that. On the flip side, look right below him, Tai Felton. That is production all day. Tai Felton's a slam dunk NFL draft pick. Slam dunk, bro. Don't overthink it. Whatever team needs a receiver, go get Tai Felton. I can remember earlier in the year, I was watching Maryland. I watch every team, but I was watching Maryland, and I wanted to go see what's the hype about this Tai Felton. It might have been week 2 or 3. And I wrote in my notes, and I have like a whole database for every single player in America. And I write in my notes on my Excel spreadsheet, I write NFL. That's it. NFL. Didn't want to talk about nothing else. I think it's an NFL weapon. Slam dunk, Tai Felton. Can't miss. Jacoby George. Stud. Good player at Miami. Finally got a quarterback that can throw him the ball. He played for 2 years running routes out wide open. Nobody could get him the ball. He finally can get the ball. I hope he works out. There's a lot of good receivers in this draft. Somebody's going to take a chance on him. He's a good player. Matthew Golden. Everybody's favorite skyrocket dude, and obviously he ran an incredibly fast 40, dominated at Texas this year, and he looks amazing. I'll go more in depth on him in the future, and as we talk about the top 10 list later in the show. Tre Harris, talk about him in the top 10 list on the show. Jaden Higgins, I wish I had a top 20 because he's probably number 11 for me. I really like Jaden Higgins. I like all the Iowa State players. If you're an MVP, you know I was really high on Iowa State's secondary and their wide receivers. And I think when you're those receivers at Iowa State and you're going up against that NFL caliber secondary, I did not stutter. Iowa State has 3 NFL defensive backs. You're going up against them every day, you're only going to get better. And then they go out to the combine, and these Iowa State receivers show out, put up big numbers. Somebody's going to draft these guys, and they can play football. Trayshawn Holden out of Oregon, that's a transfer. He started his career at Alabama, and when he was at Alabama, all he did was score touchdowns. He had 6 touchdowns, and then he hit the transfer portal, ends up at Oregon. Excuse me. I'm not sure about his NFL potential. I'm not on it like that. It is what it is, okay? Jimmy Horn Jr., everybody's favorite because he plays at Colorado. Let's be real. Jimmy Horn Jr., in the most important times of the season, I saw Jimmy Horn Jr. drop passes on small little drag routes, in the flats, mental lapse. You got your coach having to talk to you to keep you mentally focused in the game. It's crazy to me that South Florida. Now, South Florida, when he was there, they were 1-11. 1-11. And some of the players, unfortunately, like Brian Battie, they transferred and couldn't see the field at Auburn. I know what happened. I know he got shot. I'm saying before that. Okay? So you start looking at those South Florida guys and you're like, wait, who was the leading receiver at South Florida? A guy named Weaver, who then transferred to Colorado with you and outshined you? And now this year, you were relegated to be the 3rd or 4th receiver. If you're the 3rd or 4th best receiver on your current team, how the hell are you going to make it in the NFL? You're the 3rd, and now you're 5'8". You're 5'8", and that 40 time went from 4.3, supposedly, to 4.46. I'm not on Jimmy Horn like that. I actually think he's an undrafted free agent. That's how I feel. Torrey Horton, listen, and somebody on this list is going to have to be an undrafted free agent. Several guys. They invited 41 guys, and there's going to be other draft picks. You can vilify me all the fuck you want. I sit here and I explain it to you why I feel the way I do. Torrey Horton, complete stud, alpha male, been amazing, and he's part of this team. Remember, he transferred from Nevada, came with his coach to Colorado State. But that Nevada wide receiver room in 2020 is just out of this world. It had 4 NFL guys in it. What a remarkable job they did recruiting wide receivers to Nevada fucking 5 years ago. Seriously, an incredible job. Kobe Hudson transferred to UCF, and he showed out. Big kid, too. Good player. Travis Hunter's here. They have him down as a wide receiver or a corner. I don't have him as a receiver. They're telling me in the NFL they're evaluating him as a corner. I'm going to put him on my corners list if warranted. But in my receiver list, top 10, I mean, I'm not even joking. If I'm being sincere, I like my top 10 better than Travis Hunter at receiver. If I'm being sincere. All of these guys have been playing receiver, and they look the part. And one of those guys in my top 10 is Tez Johnson. I don't care what Tez Johnson ran in the 40. I care what I see from Tez Johnson on film. I care that Tez Johnson was, even at the combine, he reached the top speed of any receiver during a drill. The top speed of any receiver during a drill. There's something effective about Tez Johnson. Now, he's 150 pounds. He still gets drafted in day 2. Promise you. Still gets drafted day 2, 150 pounds. Daniel Jackson, by the way, not really sold on Daniel Jackson. He made some big plays at Minnesota, but I wouldn't draft him. It is what it is. Joshua Kelly probably ran himself out of a draft position. It's unfortunate. Joshua Kelly's 40 time was 4.7 flat. This is a stud receiver. Started his career at Fresno State. Jake Haener was his quarterback. Good stuff. And then he transferred up to Washington State. Played with Cam Ward, did great things at Washington State, and then transferred to Texas Tech this last year. And the Texas Tech receivers are so good, and he was the best one in the room. I still think he's a very good player. But you cannot play wide receiver in the NFL at 4.7. There's so many people who tell me, like, Jerry Rice ran a 4.6 or 4.7. Dude, go back and look at combine results. I think combine results go back to 85. Go back and look at combine results. You can Google it. It's on the internet. And you'll see that the average skill player ran a 4.7 or a 4.6 at best. There was a freak accident in there every now and then, 89 or 88. Deion Sanders 4.2, something like that. There was like a freak 40 in there, but the vast majority of skill players were 4.6, 4.7. So when you start quoting me some Hall of Fame player that ran a 4.6 40, Ricky Waters ran a 4.78 40 at the combine. Ricky Waters, 4.78 40. Today, if a running back runs a 4.78 40, he better be 260 pounds and ready to convert to tight end, right? So it's just a different game and a different level of speed, and now 4.7 wide receivers don't cut it. Joshua Kelly, I hope it was just a bad run and you get better and you run faster, because I think you're a hell of a football player. Big Play Dre is next from Auburn. I like Big Play Dre. That's a transfer from Penn State, went to Auburn. He's got a knack for making big plays. See what happens there. Jalen Lane transferred in from MTSU. When he was at Middle Tennessee State, he was their leading receiver. Gets to Virginia Tech. Leaned upon to be the leading receiver, but never really that good. I would say Kyron Drones is a limited quarterback throwing. He's a great runner, but doesn't really get his receivers involved. So that might be part of the reason. Jalen Lane actually ran really fast at the combine. So there's potential there to sneak into a draft pick. Dominic Lovett, ask any Georgia fan. They'll tell you they have the greatest wide receivers of all time. They don't. But this is a transfer from Missouri. And, yeah, he plays football. I don't know how excited I'd be about him. Brew McCoy, former 5-star, coming out of high school, played at Mater Dei. His quarterback was Bryce Young, right? Bryce Young was his quarterback. Initially did he sign with USC, then transferred to Texas, then changed his mind, transferred back to USC, and never saw the field at either school, and then transferred to Tennessee. He's a possession receiver. He's big. He's not a deep threat. I wouldn't draft him. I don't think he's draftable. T-Mac, my number one receiver. I'll go in depth on it. Mumfield. I like Mumfield at Pittsburgh, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Nick Nash, highly productive at San Jose State, former quarterback. Nick Nash is slow. He's a great goal line. I don't know what you do with that. You want to talk about an amazing receiver, Isaiah Nayor. That dude's special, bro. On tape, that dude is special. So, not in my top 10, not in my deep hidden gems, not in my favorites list. On tape, him and Noel, both very, very special. Underwhelmed by Prather at Maryland, not a big deal. Xavier Restrepo, everybody's favorite possession wide receiver. A lot of these guys, it reminds you of those possession receivers that were going to New England for many, many years. That's Restrepo's mode, right? He gets open. He can play football. I think he can play at the NFL level. I just saw somebody announced who's the kid from Clemson, the guy that's balding for the Raiders, that little receiver, that little possession receiver. Forgot his name. You guys know who. He said he was not retiring. They were retiring him. We need possession receivers like that. That's what Restrepo is. Jalen Royals, deep threat, amazing. Aaron Smith, apparently he's a deep threat, super fast. Wouldn't draft him, can't catch. Rock Taylor, my dude. I've been a Rock Taylor fan for a long time. Kind of average speed, average top-end speed. Probably an average NFL player. Don't care, like him. I've always liked him. Isaac T-Slaw. T-Slaw ran fast at the combine. This is a former Division II transfer. I'm not a huge fan. It is what it is. I'm not a fan of the Arkansas wide receiver room. If you're convincing me they're NFL caliber, you can sell ice to an Eskimo, because I'm not buying it, okay? Dante Thornton ran a great 40. I want to tell you, this is an Oregon transfer to Tennessee. When I watch Dante Thornton, I think of him as a track athlete. And I don't James Jett. I don't like these guys. Darius Hayward Bay. I get it. He ran fast. He looked studly. I'm just not sold. Jordan Watkins reminds me of Emeka without all the hype. Just quietly productive and does his thing. Theo Weiss, former transfer from Oklahoma. I don't think he's draftable. There's injury concerns there, and it is what it is. But to see him outshine, a 5-star teammate that everybody talks about in Luther Burden, it tells you something. I like guys who actually do it on Saturdays. He actually did it. Okay, and he is bigger. Beanie Wells. You go to Ole Miss and disappear like that, I can't get down with you. LeJontay Wester, I think probably the best receiver at Colorado. Runs amazing routes, always open. Been a stud since he was at FAU. I like LeJontay Wester. Slot receivers don't get drafted very high. They have low value. Slot receivers have low value in the NFL. If you're an X or a Y, if you guys don't know X, Y, and Z receivers, X is your traditional one. Calvin Johnson, that's your X receiver. Your Y is your slot, and then your Z is the receiver that's off the line of scrimmage. Okay, you got to know what positions you're looking for and what you're drafting. Those Ys, those slot receivers, low value to teams because you can find them anywhere. And you can get undrafted free agent Ys that are pretty damn good, and they make it on teams. That's just how it goes. So many good little slot receivers I like, and the NFL just don't even care. They just could because they're a dime a dozen. They're everywhere. Kyle Williams, I told you I like him a lot. Savion Williams is him. One of my favorite receivers, and you can't get me off it. I don't care what your assessment is. All right, those are all the guys that went to the Combine. I just want to remind you, some of these guys were early entries into the draft. You have to get a waiver to be an early entry. Guys like Isaiah Bond, Aya Minor, Luther Burden III. All that means is you were 3 years removed from high school. Matthew Golden and T-Mac. Who else? And then these guys, same thing. Underclassmen. Let's see who's here. Wide receivers. Mashad here did not play at South Dakota. Don't worry about that. Okay. He didn't play at all. So, Combine results. I'm going to get to the chat, guys. You can put it in there, your questions, comments, concerns, when we get to the top 10. But let's talk about Combine results. Everybody's favorite, 40-yard dash. Matthew Golden runs a 4.29. Thornton runs a 4.3. These are going to be very enticing. Like I said, Jalen Lane might have ran himself into a draft pick with that 4.34. It's pretty exciting. Arian Smith. These are all really fast. This is my slam dunk right here. Tai Felton. You're not messing with me. Tai Felton's amazing. By the way, nobody knows what T-Mac runs. I don't care what T-Mac runs. He's open. He's making the play. He's going to beat you. He's going to win at the top of routes when he stems defenders. He's just physically strong at the top of routes. You're not going to be able to match up with him. Those little guys are going to get tossed around. Jordan Watkins, all fast times, man. Isaiah Bonds here. Look at that. Jalen Noel, as big as he is, running that fast. Nair, huge, 6'4" guy running 4.4 flat. Kyle Williams, I believe in him. Burden needs to be a little fat. These are great times by these guys. Great times. Sam Brown here. Jimmy Horn. Wester ran very fast for my liking. Very fast. Savion Williams, my guy right here. 4.48. Don't care. It's Debo Williams, bro. Debo Williams 3.0. Rock Taylor 4.9. 4.5's here. Everybody's making fun of Tez Johnson because he's so little and he ran a 4.51. And some of these guys are slower. Nobody's smaller than him, though, right? So you start seeing, and then you get disappointed with the Josh Kelly 4.7 and Ricky White's 4.61. Okay. I think Ricky White's still draftable because he's a hell of a player. Oh, and by the way, he'll play special teams and block a kick. We start looking at verts. There's my boy Sam Brown, extremely explosive. Come out here and do a 41.5-inch vert. I think as long as you're around 40, you're solid. You're amazing, I should say. It is what it is. But if you're down here and we're looking at 30, you lack a lot of explosion. This is a problem. 30-inch vert, not it, bro. I'd actually say anything under 32 is not it. But 30 doesn't work for me. I can tell you that right now. Not as a wide receiver. You're not winning that jump ball. Okay? Broad jumps. Look at these guys who are showing out. Isaiah Nair, Jalen Lane. Look like they prepped for the Combine really well. There's my boy, Tai Felton. Tez showing you he can do a broad jump explosion. But who's got no broad jump whatsoever? Another low explosive athlete in Prather. I don't think he gets drafted. These guys are low explosion. Kyle Williams, terrible jump. I still think he's an amazing player. And that's why you got to ignore some of this stuff. Try not to be too biased. Do you, boo-boo. I think 3-cone drill. Seeing Tez Johnson smoke everybody in 3. He practiced the hell out of this thing. His acceleration is real. Acceleration is real, and not everybody did it. You can tell who didn't practice the drill. 20-yard shuttle. Some guys took it real serious. Tez is up there in the upper half, and then we got the guys not doing it that fast. It's pretty slow. 4.41. I'm thinking some quarterbacks might have been faster. Bench press, 23 reps. That's the real deal there, Noel. These guys are just lifting. 11 reps. Not bad. And you can tell the guys who didn't do the reps, it is what it is. Okay. Enough of that. We'll get to the list here. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to talk about the top 10. And then I'll jump to the chat, and then we'll go over my top 5 favorites. And we'll go over the deep hidden gems. All right, first and foremost, my number 1 is T-Mac. I've been a T-Mac guy since he was leaving Servite. flipping from Oregon, going to Arizona. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is or anything like that. When you watch T-Mac on tape, DBs are deathly afraid of having to try to jam this guy. He's too big and strong. He can beat you over the top. I think he has an incredible catch radius. I believe in T-Mac all day. And any of those news stories talking about his draft stock dropping or anything like that, like, I don't care. It's the media. But if there's an NFL team out there in need of a wide receiver and they're passing on T-Mac, those guys just won't be employed very long. Like, stop thinking the NFL teams are the experts at this. They're not. They're missing all the time. And they get fired. And then a new guy makes the picks, right? So, like, the people drafting players at a particular team, they're not the same guys who drafted players in 2015 and 2017. Those guys aren't there anymore. For the vast majority of the NFL, there's so much turnover when it comes to talent evaluation. The fact that people sit around and go, oh, you think you know better than so-and-so? Yeah, man, it's his first year on the job. The motherfucker's worried about what this guy did in 5th grade. It's his first year on the job, and he doesn't move me, bro. T-Mac is the best receiver. Savion Williams. I've loved everything about Savion Williams this year. If you aren't aware, TCU had injuries at running back. They just said, all right, we're going to move Savion to running back. He's so versatile, and you're going to hear this. Position versatility is important at wide receiver. Position versatility, I'm not talking about willingness to play special teams. I'm talking about being a weapon on a jet sweep. Being the quarterback on Savion Williams played quarterback. Being a quarterback in Wildcat formations. Just the value there is insane, and he's a hell of a receiver. Savion Williams is him. Go watch the tape and believe in him. Then we have Emeka, Egbuka, complete stud at Ohio State. Like I said, Mr. Reliable. I'm with him. Tre Harris, transferring from La Tech, going to Ole Miss, and taking over a wide receiver room where they had so many good receivers transfer in, and he was still the best one. Win healthy. Still the best one, and he's a physical specimen. Tai Felton, like I told you, slam dunk NFL guy. And it's so crazy. I want to move Tai Felton to number 2, but I already published all the charts. I already put everything out, so I won't change him. But I'm telling you, Tai Felton, in my heart of hearts, is number 2 when it comes to slam dunk NFL prospects. Tai Felton. Jalen Royals. Oh, barring injury or character concerns. Jalen Royals, complete stud at Utah State. It's hard to tell how good he is because he wasn't going against any NFL DBs, but he's just been so explosive. I know he averaged over 20 yards a catch back in 2023. That's when he got on the map for me. And then this year, same thing. Even with the quarterback changes at Utah State, head coach changes at Utah State, just a lot of moving parts around him that he has no control over. Remember, if a receiver wants to get a catch, a lot of things need to go right. Snap needs to be good. Offensive line needs to pick up the blitz or the stunt. Quarterback needs to drop, read the right defense, throw a pretty ball. Defender can't close on it. A lot of things got to go right for a receiver to get a catch. And when you start losing your head coach, your quarterback, 2 of your running backs hit the transfer portal, a lot went wrong at Utah State. Jalen Royals is something that went right. I really like that. And then I want to talk about Sam Brown Jr. at 7 versus Matthew Golden at 8. I understand Matthew Golden is probably in a lot of people's top 3 right now because of his combine performance, because of what he did at Texas. But I didn't just discover Matthew Golden this year like a lot of you guys. And I know, no shade. I think many of you don't have a fucking clue who Matthew Golden was before this year. Just your casual fans. And you watch SEC football. So you watch Matthew Golden dominating, and he's outplaying Isaiah Bond, and you go, Matthew Golden's the best receiver in America and all this stuff. Listen, in 2023, Matthew Golden was the 3rd leading receiver at Houston. Go watch the tape. He was the 3rd leading receiver at Houston. And there was one receiver better than him. Clearly better than him. And it was Sam Brown Jr. They were both on the same team at Houston. Sam Brown Jr. is the alpha male on that team, and he's leading everybody at everything. Here's what happened. Matthew Golden jumps in the transfer portal in December, and he leaves. And when he leaves, he goes straight to Texas. He gets embedded with the Texas team. He learns the offense. He gets continuity with his quarterback. And he becomes a weapon. And they utilize him. And the rest is history. But I know that just 3 months prior, he was the third best receiver in a room at Houston. And the best guy in that room was Sam Brown Jr. So what happened to Sam Brown? Well, Sam Brown didn't go anywhere in the winter. He didn't jump in the transfer portal in the winter. Sam Brown stayed at Houston. And he did all of spring at Houston. Then Houston concludes spring ball. Sam Brown is a late jump in the portal after the fact. He missed how many practices, how much continuity, and he transfers to Miami late, June. And when you get to Miami, June, that's a problem. Because they already have established receivers. They already brought in other transfers. And you're fighting for reps. And you're fighting for playing time. And and don't get me wrong, Sam Brown eventually got on the field and showed out. And looked great. But early in the fall, it was like, yo, why is he not on the field? Why is he not there? He's still learning. Got there too late. I won't forget what they looked like together in a room. And I trust my assessment. And I trust my productivity. I see the chat going crazy. I see this guy, Kenny, wrote, players improve. Yes, they do. All of them improve. I don't see anybody getting worse. To think that Matthew Golden improved and Sam Brown didn't would be disingenuous. It'd be ridiculous. Oh, well, maybe the quarterback wasn't filling him. Donovan was throwing to all his receivers. When you have the same quarterback, and there's 3 receivers, and you have the same quarterback, you don't get to blame the quarterback. We all have the same conditions. One guy's the leading receiver. He's getting the best corner. The other guy's the third best receiver on the team. He's getting the third corner. When Texas lines up, do you think Matthew Golden was getting the best corner? He was not. Isaiah Bond was. The safeties were rolled up in the box trying to stop these elite running backs. That's coaching. You scheme it. But you can't lose sight of it. Now, NFL doesn't care. NFL doesn't care about production. NFL cares about athleticism and speed. And Matthew Golden just ran his ass off. And he looks like he's got breakaway speed and a kickoff returner. There's value there. Fine. I believe in Sam Brown. I've watched him for 3 years. I love everything about Sam Brown. Hands down. Kyle Williams, like I said, complete stud, former high school quarterback, converted to wide receiver, dominant, just impressive, wins routes, love his yak. I think he's crafty. The way he throttles down and stems defenders, the way he has really good, and I'm going to say this word, pacing. Pacing is really understood. He knows when to accelerate, when to decelerate. He knows how to win, man. Kyle Williams, if you had to do one-on-ones with him, he's going to beat you every time. He's going to make you look silly, embarrass you. I think it's pretty awesome because in the NFL, there's a lot of man coverage, and I think he can beat man coverage. Tez Johnson, don't mess with him. He'll always be in my top 10. Don't mess with him. All right, I'm going to jump to the chat. Thanks for being here. If you're watching on TikTok right now, move over to YouTube and come ask your questions. I don't read this chat while I'm doing the show. I don't get paid to read that chat. I get paid to read this chat. All right, thank you for being here. All right, let's go ahead and interact with this and scroll it back up. I apologize. Hunter Malone says, Rico, love the content. Thank you for all that you do for these kids and young adults. It's really amazing to see people help when they have a platform. Most importantly, thank you for your service. Oh, thank you so much, Hunter Malone. If you guys don't know what Hunter Malone's talking about, after every football season, during the offseason, I use my platform to do high school film reviews, and I help young players get scholarships. I do my best to try to find them a landing spot wherever they want to go. I have a ton of coaches that follow my platform on Twitter, and we try to find them landing spots where they can play, whether that be NAIA, Division II, Division III, FCS, or FBS. We've had success at every echelon and every level, and every program reaches out and asks for certain players. They say, hey, Rico, we're trying to find XYZ. Can you help us? And I have a player for that, right? We have a whole roster going. I actually can show you guys. I never show this. This is going to be something different. Let me see this. Let me see if I have it here. I cut it down to my top 50 guys I advocate for every single day. I can show it to you. Let me pull the screen up here for you. It's right there. It's on the screen. It's a Word document that I maintain and change, but it's who they are and where I guess where I evaluate them. So when a coach asks me for a specific player or position group, I know where to go and I know who to give them and help them. There's tons of players, by the way. I have about 300 every year that I help assist, and we're just getting a jump on it, and it's pretty cool. And I'm glad you guys follow on Twitter and pay attention and see it. So that's, I want to tell you guys something. With my line of work, job satisfaction is really important. When we get a prediction right, it's huge. I give you an example. There's a UFC card on Saturday, pay-per-view. I got to tell the gamblers who's going to win these fights. Do you guys know how good it feels when I get it right? It's the most amazing job satisfaction. We're screaming and yelling. We're yelling out RicoKnows. We're counting our money. We're having a good time. And we've been doing this for multiple years now. And I had a guy write to me, and he said, Rico, your views are down on YouTube because you're a scammer. And I just start laughing. And oh, that doesn't matter, man. We're not fighting for views. We're fighting for accuracy. The MVPs don't sit around and watch the YouTube videos. The MVPs sit around and go and count their money. They watch the UFC fights on Saturday with me on the Discord server. Like, we just live a different life nowadays, and it feels good, and it feels really good to, to go there. So I like getting things right, and I like winning like that. But the better feeling than all this is helping those kids. When the young man writes to me and says, Rico, I finally got my offer. Thank you so much. Or the coach writes to me and says, Rico, I want that kid so bad. You got a cell phone number? And I pass it. Like, that's when it feels special. That's probably the better feeling than getting a bet right. I feel really good about that. So just for my own peace of mind, giving back that way, using my platform to help those kids and those parents, it's phenomenal feeling. Phenomenal feeling. So thank you for reaching out and saying that, Hunter Malone. I appreciate you. Buckeye says, not sold on Luther Burden either. There you go. Everybody has their own assessment, right? Everybody can do their own thing. It's your business. I'm not here to debate with anyone. I'm just here to give you my top 10 and then keep it moving. Good to see you, Rico. Why is Restrepo not in your top 10? Armin, Restrepo's not in my top 10 because he's a slot receiver. And slot receivers, like I said, in the NFL, they're not valued very high, and they're just a dime a dozen for that regard. And when I start looking at the guys that I picked for my top 10, I think I picked slam dunks. I think I picked guys that I really believe in. So thoughts on Tre Harris. Already talked about it. Rewind the show. Education over debate. There you go. Shout out to you. Much like collision confidence for a quarterback, what's an unknown or unspoken attribute you look for in a wide receiver? Wow, Mr. Linden. Thank you for asking the question. So I talked about this. If you don't know what he's talking about, they asked me what I look for in a quarterback, and I said collision courage. It's the ability to complete the pass when you know you're going to take the hit. I give you extra kudos for that. Not just step up in the pocket, not just pocket presence, but the willingness to complete the pass knowing you're taking the hit. It's incredible. And there's some quarterbacks that have collision courage more than others, and they're phenomenal. And they're your best teammate and your best friend. The guys who are completing passes with their face in the dirt or on their back, and they just hear the crowd screaming, those are the best quarterbacks out there. I'm just letting you know, because they can overcome a blitz and overcome that unblocked defensive end coming to rip their head off. So when it comes to wide receivers, what do I look for the most? An unknown or unspoken attribute? Let me think about that for a second. I think it's, and this is going to sound crazy because some receivers do it, but it's going to be changing your route based upon coverage. And I'll explain to you. Before a snap, I read the coverage of the defender. So I try to anticipate what the wide receiver is thinking, right? What's the coverage I see? So now we try to read the coverage, but more importantly, the alignment of the defensive back. And if I have a defensive back shading me on the inside, head up, or on the outside, how do I run this route? So I know I want to run a post, but how do I run the post if he's shading on the inside, taking away my inside, versus head up or on the outside? And when you watch routes change based upon coverage, you know that player has a really good understanding of the route tree. Okay? It's never the same. It really isn't. And it's just neat to watch them attack the space, is what I'm going to call it. The space between a defender and a receiver. When you reduce that space, you get on top of the defender, and we call that stemming the defender. When you reduce the space, now you force that defender to make a decision right when you're on top of them. And now we got that rocker step. I'll give you an example, okay? And I don't really want to draw too much in the air, but I'll give you a prime example. A post corner route. A post corner. So you're running a post corner, and I think I'm mirrored, so I'm going to go backwards. But the receiver runs up, X amount of steps, and breaks to the post. And then he breaks back out to the corner. Typically, this is a double move. Typically, you're going to be wide open. But a post corner against zone coverage, you're probably going to take 3 or 4 hard steps to the post before you break back out to the corner. Because you got to get behind that corner that's sitting in the flats or has that deep third. You want that corner to pass you off, to pass you off to the post. So the corner's going to be yelling in, and take his attention elsewhere. And then as you go in, you come out behind him, and that's how you win in a post corner against a zone. But in a man post corner, 1 step to the post. 1 step, it almost looks like a flag route. Okay, you take that thing, as soon as you turn his hips, that next step on the inside, you slam it down and you throw it to the outside, right? Now, I've been an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator. I've been a head coach. I've been everything you can think of when it comes to coaching. I'm going to tell you that when I see players who understand the nuances of route running to that extent and knowing how to change their tempo, but when I watch it and I see the routes change and they start stemming defenders and lining them up, oh, it's so beautiful. I get excited. There's a kid I just reviewed who did the hell out of this in a video, and it turns out his head coach is Phillip Rivers. I was reviewing his tape in Alabama, and I said, yo, this kid is nice. He knows exactly what he's doing with his routes. And then I did more research. I find out his head coach is Phillip Rivers. You think they're doing this by accident? You think he's running these amazing routes by accident? Or he's got an NFL quarterback telling him, we're going to change the routes based on the coverage and the alignment. I love it, man. I love it. And so when I study tape and I study these players, I love to see that nuance. I just don't want to see you do a fade, run a fade, and now you got to beat them with athleticism. No, I want to see you understand pacing and when to accelerate, decelerate, drop your hips, whatever it is, right? Winning at the top of routes is really important to me. High pointing balls, just all the fundamentals. But the one thing that I really look for is if it was a route, and I'm not talking about choice routes. I'm talking about they called a route in the huddle. It's the play. You come up to line of scrimmage. You look at the coverage, and you know, I got to change this route. I got to run it differently than I usually do. And the quarterback's on the same page. That's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. Shout out to those receivers. See it all the time. And it's exciting stuff. So, good to see you. Yeah. Did I miss you talking about Tre Harris? Rewind the show. Put it at 1.5 playback speed. You'll catch up. I already talked about Tre Harris. T-Mac is him. Yes, he is. What's up, Rico? What up, Alex Vaught? I've been a big fan of Ian Larson and Efton Chism. So excited for someone to finally talk about them. You know ball. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll be talking about Chism here in a little bit. He's one of my deep hidden gems. How deep of a hidden gem is he if everybody's talking about him? But I had to put him on the list. No Jimmy Horn Jr. No 7th round draft picks are going to be on my list. Not on my top 10 list. And he's not one of my favorite receivers. No. Why are you no longer on TikTok? Jericho Roman, I'm on TikTok. There's 170,000 people on TikTok that follow my videos. I'm on TikTok. Combine guys, my bad. Tre Harris had a lot of injuries. Yes, he did. He had to overcome some injuries this year. It is what it is. Chism is a gem for sure. There you go. Players improve. Yep. I love Jalen Royals. I know you don't like comps, but I think he plays a lot like Terry McLaurin. Huh. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the assessment. I've never watched Terry McLaurin play. He plays in the NFL. I don't watch the NFL. So I couldn't tell you. I mean, I watched him play in college, but I couldn't tell you what that means. Scary Terry? Yeah, I've never watched an NFL game, so I don't know. Maybe the quarterback, yep, not Tim Tebow. I don't know what that means. Matthew Golden had more touchdowns that year, though, but Sam Brown did lead in yards. Oh, I'm very aware. I'm cool. No Luther Burden. Does he have character concerns? He does not. He just has production concerns and effectiveness concerns. Cristobal's offenses never seem to produce high yardage wide receivers, too. Plus, Ward already had chemistry with the strap up through the spring. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. 100%. Big fan. Shout out to you, Sammy. Thanks for being here, man. Thoughts on Jaden Higgins from Iowa State? Talked about him earlier. I think he's a stud receiver. I've always liked him. How close is he to your top 10? Jaden Higgins? I just said him and Noel are like 11, and they're in the top 15 for sure, both of them. Thoughts on Restrepo? Stud. I think he would be a good fit in the McDaniels Patriots offense. See, that kind of shit bothers me. You guys start naming teams and players who would be a good man. There's 30 receivers that would be a good fit on that particular team. 30. Magdalena, sleeper slot wide receiver. That's gritty as hell. Magdalena is a slot wide receiver from Fresno State. Very good player. Fast. He's actually pretty fast. He's a track guy. But once again, one of those slot guys that nobody's going to talk about, and he's going to have to fight for a camp invite, a mini invite, and probably UFL caliber. I think guys like that become coaches. They don't get an opportunity to play at the next level. They just become coaches. And they teach people how they succeeded with the limited physical traits that they have. He's a good receiver, man. It's not going to work out. Real talk. Dante Thornton already talked about him. Rewind the show. Speaking of UFC, give us a preview of Ankalev and Pereira. Nope. You guys can watch the show. I'll start recording those videos tomorrow, and the video will be free on YouTube. The prediction and the preview, it'll be there. Roll Tide Roll. What up, Lewis Hunton? Shout out to you, bruh. Tet the real deal, Rico. I don't know who Tet is. I don't know what Tet is. T-E-T. Is that something I don't know? Did you just say you never watch an NFL game? Explain. Explain why you don't know that. Explain why you don't know that, buddy. Do yourself a favor. Get a life. Sundays are used for assessing results and getting ready for the next week. I would never watch an NFL game. I don't support criminal organizations. I don't support organizations that employ criminals. I don't get down with NFL. Period. Never watched that boring shit in my life. Can't stand their fans. At least if I'm talking to a college football fan, it might be an alumni. He might be college educated. NFL fans? Them dudes eat crayons, bro. I can't get down with them. Get away from me. That's gross. El Minor is an absolute stud. I think he drops more passes than any receiver I've ever seen on tape. He had drops in 2023. This year, he dropped even more. He has more drops than any receiver I reviewed. I'm telling you, he can't catch. I'm not joking. Say what you want to say. Doesn't catch the ball well. Maybe Kyron Lacey drops it more. Are there any wide receivers you believe have character concerns? Yeah, Kyron Lacey, bro. I'm not messing with him. Who's a receiver in this draft that has excellent burst and athleticism? Tai Felton. Matthew Golden. Savion Williams. Everybody. Tez Johnson. You look good, Rico. Thank you for all the content you deliver. Thoughts on Michigan? I try not to think about Michigan. It's a mitten. I'm not smitten with the mitten. Rico, do you like Marcus Yarns? You missed the running back episode. That was yesterday. Go watch the running back episode. Tet. Oh. T-Mac. My bad, bro. T-Mac's number one on my list. Dude, what are you asking me? Marcus Yarns, go watch the running back episode. It was posted yesterday. You're missing out on great NFL football, brother. I find the NFL grotesque. I would never think it's great. I can't stand anything about the NFL product. I have no desire to ever watch it. I feel like Rock Taylor's being slept on. Not by me. I've been a Rock Taylor guy for 2 years. Him and Demir Blankumsey, all of Memphis. So I'm not sleeping on him. I just don't think he's top 10. That's all. It's nothing, nothing personal. I like Rock Taylor a lot. I actually called him Michael Irvin 2 years ago. We'll see. You a legend, Rico. Appreciate the work as always. Shout out to you, Prophet. I try my best, bro. I'm a legend in my own mind, right? All right, let's go look. I'll get back to the chat. Keep putting in your questions, comments, and concerns. TikTok, move over if you want. Let's go over here and talk about my top 5 favorites. I already told you. My favorite's T-Mac. I'm not getting off it. Savion Williams right here. Complete stud. I think he's the ultimate player, and then Kyle Williams. The only 2 favorites you haven't heard from, Ricky White III. This is a 3-star kid coming out of high school. Played on an all-time great high school team here in Georgia for Marietta. The team was so loaded, it's insane, and everybody ignored Ricky White because he was only a 3-star. And they had 5-star, right? 5-star criminal on the team. So when you have a 5-star criminal thug who's been arrested multiple times for stealing vapes, people ignored the 3-star kid. But in the state title game, I'm watching the game on GPB Sports here in Georgia, and I'm watching Ricky White being the only effective player in the state title game, scoring 2 touchdowns. He looked like an NFL player. And I go, yo, that guy's amazing. It reminded me, I watched a CIF championship back in the day, 2001, California. I'm watching a championship. Back then, they didn't have state titles. They had CIF championships. And I'm watching this team that's ranked 24th in the state. And they had all these players. And they were telling me there was an All-American on the team, all this stuff. And then the receiver scores 2 touchdowns. And I'm like, who's that receiver? It was Jeff Webb. Shout out to Jeff Webb. He ends up going to San Diego State. He ends up being a 6th-round draft pick by the Chiefs. had a great career with the Aztecs at San Diego State, and he ends up getting drafted by Herm Edwards and the Chiefs. When you look back on that high school team, there was other players rated higher than him, and none of them amounted to shit. None of them made it to the NFL. Okay, that's what I'll say. I shouldn't say amounted to shit. None of them made it to the NFL. So sometimes when you're watching a great team, the great players rise to the top, not these highly ranked players. And one of those great players that rises to the top all the time is Ricky White III. Now, coming out of high school, he goes to Michigan State. Can't get on the field. Well, they got a guy named Keon Coleman over there and a bunch of other NFL caliber wide receivers, Jaden Reed. So you get to Michigan State, you look at the wide receiver room, and it's 3 guys in the NFL today. And you're like, holy shit, I can't start here. So you transfer and you leave Michigan State and you go to UNLV and become a superstar. And then you have quarterback issues this year and you get a slow start to the season and nobody really talks about you anymore. Then you run the second slowest 40. No one talks about you. I'm going to talk about you. I think Ricky White is the truth. I think the teams would be foolish not to draft him. I think he's the ultimate underdog story, a complete dog. I like him a lot. Seriously, he's one of them ones. He's a Sunday guy. Another Sunday guy for me, I talked about it early in the season. Ask MVPs. It might have been week 1 or 2, and I said, yo, Illinois has a guy. His name is Pat Bryant, and I think he's special. And here we are. I think he's an NFL goal line wide receiver. I think he's good. He's good. I know they're worried about his explosion. They're worried about his limited route tree. I know they're worried about some things. I don't care, man. He's Kelvin Benjamin. And I like that. And if you guys don't remember Kelvin Benjamin, go look him up. Kelvin Benjamin, go look up his stats. Go look up what he did in the NFL before he got fat. Pat Bryant is Kelvin Benjamin. And I've actually talked to Pat Bryant's agent. He reached out to me in DMs on Twitter, and he just thanked me for always having his back and always saying positive things about him. So shout out to Pat Bryant, shout out to his agent, and pretty good stuff, man. So I'm always going to be in Pat Bryant's corner. Sometimes when I say these guys are my favorite, sometimes I've talked to them in the DMs, and they're just good friends of the channel. And I will admit that. I will admit that here I can have favoritism. Here I can have some shit. Like Ricky White, him and his father have reached out to me in the DMs. I'm a fan, bro. It is what it is. I don't care. It's my platform. I do what I do. All right, hidden gems. Number 1 hidden gem for me is Brennan Presley. Now, is he really a hidden gem? He's one of the all-time leading receivers in Oklahoma State history, but he didn't get invited to the Combine, and that bugs the shit out of me. You don't get invited to the Combine, you're a weapon, but they think you're 5'7", 180, and they don't want to talk to you. I think he's a hell of a football player. He and his brother are 2 of the greatest football players in the history of Oklahoma high school football. Never lost a game in high school. And then you go to Oklahoma schools and stay loyal and ball out of control. This is a man who had over 100 receptions 2 years ago. He can do everything. I like Brennan Presley a lot. I don't know if he gets drafted. As a matter of fact, these deep hidden gems, they might not get drafted. Except for Chism. I don't care. So, let me go on. So then we have Darius Cooper here. If you don't know Darius Cooper, fine. Darius Cooper led the country in receiving this year at the FCS level. Darius Cooper played at Tarleton State. He's so good, I can't put him below Chism. And I know NFL websites and Twitter guys are all talking about Chism. Why are we not talking about Darius Cooper? He's so nice. Darius Cooper is very good, guys. Go find some tape. Find a highlight tape. Go watch Darius Cooper. You don't want to be the one that doesn't know who he is. Darius Cooper is the man. I love everything about him. Shout out to him. Efton Chism, little white dude. You know what they say about the white dudes from Eastern Washington? Cooper Cup type dudes. He's only 5'11", stud. Gets open, does his thing, very effective, fast. They're sold on him. I think he'll get drafted day 3. So there we go. I'm on all these dudes, right? No diddy. Then we have Jerjuan Newton, Toledo wide receiver. I could have went a different route and named another FCS guy. Shout out to my boy Gibson at Sacramento State. But I went with Jerjuan Newton because I actually think Jerjuan Newton suffered from having substandard quarterback play this year in the MAC. I think he's a hell of a player, man. And I think he's special. I really do. But they're all kind of the same. I want you guys to know this. 3 of these 4, except for Darius here, 3 of these 4 are all very similar in size, ability, position, productivity, like everything. You're just getting the same guy. So if a team picks one of them, congrats. But they're all kind of the same. You just pick one. Put it in a hat and pick one. You're looking for a slot receiver? We got about 30. Go pick one. They're all kind of the same. So shout out to Newton. And speaking of kind of the same, Roy Alexander actually stumbled onto him late. And I know he's one of the leading receivers in the FCS. For me to say I stumbled onto him late. What happened was he played at Incarnate Word, okay? I'm watching tape. Now, there's two amazing receivers at Incarnate Word. But I'm watching tape on Incarnate Word. I'm watching for Zach Calzada. I was doing reviews on the transfer portal for quarterbacks. And I was looking up Zach Calzada's tape because he just played at Incarnate Word. And as I'm watching his tape, he keeps throwing two receivers. And there was this guy named Jalen Withall. I'm watching him, Whithall, something like that. Dude, both of these guys, just yak, open all the time, and he's just a little slot receiver. Roy Alexander. I don't know what I would do if I was an NFL GM. Like, I would just bring in all these little guys and just be like, yo, we're going to win with small ball. Like, we're just going to win with a bunch of badass little dudes. Roy Alexander's him. He had over 100 receptions this year, or maybe 100 on the dot. He was super productive this year at the FCS level. So I always try to pick FCS guys in these slots here. We'll see what happens, especially in the linemen. I'm going to be doing that. But that's who I got for my hidden gems and my 5 favorites. I'm going to jump to the chat one last time before we end the show. Thank you for being here. TikTok, you got a question, anything you want to say, move over to YouTube, drop it in the chat. I will answer. I will get back to you. But I don't talk to TikTok during the show. Thank you guys for being here. Let's go see what happens. All right. Let's jump back to the chat, and then we'll end the show. Sorry, I'm still under the weather, getting after it, though. All right, interact. Let's scroll up. Let's do what we do. McMillan, my bad, Rico. He is the truth. I'm big on Savion. There you go, RG. Well, then we're the same, bro. Reason I asked about Michigan is because I'm an Ohio State fan. No thoughts on transfers and recruits. Yeah, Chris, that's a whole nother show, man. That's not here. We're talking about the NFL draft and wide receivers. People watch these shows based upon the title and not for random ass topics we're having. This is not throw questions in a hat type of thing. I expect all questions to be specific to the wide receivers in the NFL draft. I'm not here to talk about your favorite team or your most hated team or transfer portal. I have entire episodes on the transfer portal and different position groups. And I've done, I think, 9 episodes. You should go watch those. And if you want to know about Michigan players, go watch the episodes, find out what Michigan player transferred, and they'll be in one of those episodes because I talk about every position group. Torrey Horton, and Josh Kelly, couple of ballers from the 559. There you go. Look at Donnie, man. Donnie's out here just repping for the same spot every day, all day. Excel sheet at 265%. Love it. Viewer friendly. I'm trying, man. I'm trying to make sure you guys can read it. You know what I'm saying? I'll scroll roll till you guys can read it, theoretically. Now, I don't know if you're on a phone. Some of you guys mess with them Galaxies, them weak ass. Some of you guys got an iPhone 3 or some tiny ass screen, bro. I don't know how you do it. You got to watch porn. Bugs me that Darius and Efton didn't get combine invites. When you have 41 FBS caliber guys get invites, and you already know they're not all getting drafted, it does bug you. And then it bugs you when guys show up and don't work out. Prather looks pathetically unathletic. It just bugs you that this happens and they didn't give any FCS guys invites in the wide receiver rooms. That's just silly. We know somebody's getting drafted. So, yeah, it sucks. Darius Cooper also had 3.6 yards per route. Elite metric. Yeah, man, I believe he was probably second. I can't forget who the first place guy was, but yeah, I saw that somewhere on the internet. If you read it somewhere, I beat you to it. I read it. I do this for a living, so I gather information from everywhere when doing my assessments as well. It's not like I'm sitting in a room ignoring the world, but I did see that. Thoughts on Daniel Jackson? Talked about him earlier in the show. I think he's just an okay wide receiver. I don't think he's NFL caliber and nothing to write home about. Who was your number 1 wide receiver just joined? You can rewind the show. It's that easy. Who should the Panthers draft at wide receiver? Oh, my goodness. I don't ever tell teams who they should draft a wide receiver. Draft whoever you want, bro. Didn't they just draft a wide receiver in the first round last year? The fuck are they doing? So weird. Jameson Williams, Dante Thornton. Okay, there you go. That's news to me. It's news to me. Jalen Polk was a bust this year. Could you see that ahead of time? Probably not. Where did I rank him last year? Where did I rank Polk last year? Was I ahead of everybody else? Let's see what we have. Was he in my top 10? Where's the Polk guy? While everybody was telling me that I needed to rank him in the top 10? Is he there? He never made it in my top 10. I'm looking. Look at this shit. He's not in my top 10 last year. Oh, my goodness. Rico, he's a second-round draft pick. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, my God, Rico, you suck. You don't know what you're doing. I'm sitting here going, okay. Well, Brian Thomas was my number 2 receiver. No one had him at number 2. No one had him at number 2. How productive was he this year? How great was he? You bums. You guys sit here telling me I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm not even trying to predict NFL success. I'm just telling you how good they are. Let people figure it out. But just because you're a second-round draft pick don't mean you're on my list. Get away from me. Polk. You can't be second or third best receiver at your old school, bro, and make it in the NFL. I just don't get down with you. Appreciate that. Thoughts on Jack Beck? Talked about it earlier in the show. Just rewind the show. Don't think very highly of him as an NFL prospect, but he's a cool kid. Shout out to him. Yo, Rico, what up, Andrew? Why isn't Travis Hunter on your list? He's the number 1 this year on my books. Tyler Folsom. If you have books, bro, if you have a list, I don't give a shit. I didn't come in here and say, yo, guys, tell me who's your top 10. Put it in the chat. Doesn't care. Don't give a flying flip what you do. Make a channel. Make a video and put out your top 10 and see if anybody's rocking with you. That's all I ever did. You've never seen me on somebody else's page telling them how wrong they are. Never. You've never seen me on somebody else's page telling them anything. I don't care. I don't watch other people's content. I don't care. Travis Hunter is not a top 10 wide receiver for me. That's why he's not in the top 10. He's number 10 and number 1 in your books. I don't think you evaluated all the wide receivers. I don't think you did. I think you watch TV. That's what I think you do. I think you watch fucking Fox and ESPN. And you go to Twitter and you just read anything. I think you follow every Colorado page in the world, bro. And let me tell you the greatest thing that ever happened to my platform is the day we got rid of all the Colorado fans. All those Colorado shills. All those dudes sitting here. I rock with Coach Prime. Don't care about anything. Just blindly rocking with shit. Sounds incredibly crazy. You'd be sitting there like, yo, did you know his son just falsely claimed bankruptcy? Did you know he assaulted somebody? I don't care. I rock with him. You guys sound ridiculous, bro. Ridiculous. You need to Travis Hunter, number 1 wide receiver. Do you, dude? Do you? If he was the number 1 wide receiver, he'd be number 1 on my list. And he's not. And I feel really good about it. Thoughts on Jackson Meeks? I thought he played well, but I just can't get down. Let me be clear. If you couldn't get on the field at one particular school and then you transferred and you were highly productive at the next school, I have a hard time understanding how I'm going to rank you ahead of anybody that was on the field ahead of you, right? So if you're at Georgia and there's 3 or 4 receivers ahead of you, I can't put you ahead of them. They kept you off the field. RicoKnows. What? Theo Weiss had a better year than Luther. Why isn't he higher? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm not doing. He's not higher with me. Like, I don't know what to tell you. He's not higher because Luther Burden was a 5-star coming out of high school, and these scouts refused to admit that they were wrong. So they're going to go ahead and pick him, and they're going to go ahead and do their thing with him. They also think that they can probably get him out of his slump and make him effective, and they probably can. That's you've never met an ego bigger than an NFL coach. The ego on an NFL coach is astronomical. They'll see a guy fail on one team and go, oh, I can fix him. Yeah, he'd be good. He'd be successful. He just came over here. Oh, we get him straight. Hey, he gets in our locker room. With our guys, we get him straight. Yeah, hey, we'll make him good. And then he'll get to your city and get a DUI and get arrested for domestic violence. And you'll be like, oh, man. We tried everything we could, but, he just couldn't get his mind right, man. We're trying. The audacity, it blows my mind. I see it every year. That's why I can't watch NFL. I will never watch NFL. They're so out of touch with reality that they will see a criminal and be like, let's go sign him. Don't care. And I'll never. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, I can't do this. It's fucking insane. Every GM should be talking to Rico for real. They don't need to be talking to me. I need one. I need one to talk to me. One. And pay me for my advice and my analysis. Pay me for my advisement and my counsel. Just wondering your thoughts on Travis Hunter as a receiver. Oh, well, I think he's a very good receiver. I think he has the potential to be a very effective receiver. I think he's very slow, so he shouldn't be playing corner. I don't think he has any recovery speed whatsoever. And I already did a video on it 2 years ago where I just showed play after play after play where he has zero closing speed, recovery speed. So you can just beat him. Dude, go watch tape at Jackson State. A Rutgers receiver who never played at Rutgers. He just transferred from Rutgers to an HBCU, Alcorn. Dominating him. Just an average-ass dude out there. Dominating him. Because if you get a step on Travis Hunter, he's not catching up. So he can't play man coverage. So there's a liability there. A lot of people will tell me, like they write in the comments, they're always like, Jerry Rice ran a 4.7. So Travis Hunter runs a 4.6, 4.5. So they're like, he ran a 4.7. Look at Jerry Rice. And I'm like, how terrible of a corner would Jerry Rice be? How terrible of a corner would Jerry Rice have been? And I've already talked to you about the average speed of a skill player in the 80s versus today. It's literally like 0.3 seconds difference. Literally. From 0.4 to 4.7. 4.4 to 4.7. So it's crazy. It is what it is. I think he's a very good receiver. I like him at receiver if he were to work on his routes and just focus on the route running. I think the route running right now is not NFL worthy. His route running is not NFL worthy, just period. Listen, if you think Travis Hunter's fast, go turn on the tape and show me where Travis Hunter has ever run a 9, a go route, a fade. Never. Because there's no separation there. Because he's not fast enough to get on top of a DB and outrun him on a fade. So you run and you have over 70 receptions and there's no fade routes. Zero. There's not a catch where you're going over the top. What there is a lot of drags, finding holes in zones, a lot of little hitches, screens, bubbles, all that. But there's nothing where you stretch the field and just beat somebody on a fade. I looked for it, bro. And if the coaches aren't calling it, they know there's no separation there if they were to call it. That's a limited receiver for me. And if you're going to run slot-oriented routes, you're not an X. You're a Y or a Z, the value in you as a receiver is lower, right? I look at an X like T-Mac, that's a real value. I'm not saying he's not an effective receiver. I'm not saying he can't get first downs. I'm not saying he can't have a tremendous yak, any of that stuff. I'm just telling you that when you evaluate these receivers for what they are, you have to be impartial. You have to sit down and actually analyze the tape. And I just told you, you're not going to find a fucking play anywhere where Travis Hunter's running a fade, beating you off the line. You're not. You're going to find some around the parked car, ad lib. My quarterback's now scrambling, rolling this way. Now I rolled with him. You're going to find a bunch of like nuance, just randomness, but you're not going to find what you're looking for, which is plays in structure where you're beating coverage and you're doing it. You're not going to find it. I think he has a unique skill set of athleticism and maybe acceleration, agility, cat-like agility and stuff. Think of a dog and a cat. A dog is probably way faster than a cat straight line speed. But for some reason, that dog can't really catch a cat. Cats can just cut, move, and shake and go, but they can't hit that top speed. And that's what I think Travis Hunter is. I think Travis Hunter is a cat who can kind of move and is shifty, but he just can't get there where you need him to be. And anybody telling you otherwise, they just haven't assessed the tape. They're fans. They're watching big plays, and they're watching it. But when you sit down and assess the tape and really watch it for what it is, you'll see Alcorn State wide receivers roasting this man on back-to-back plays. They're calling it in the huddle, on the sideline, on the headset. They're saying, we have man coverage with Travis Hunter. Beat him on a fade. Beat him on a route. And I've literally put it on tape. I would do it right now in the middle of this video if it wouldn't give me a copyright violation, and it would because it's a TV broadcast. But I've literally done this before. I did it 2 years ago. So it is what it is. Sco Buffs. There you go. It's only 40 MFers in here. Jamal Adams, you're going to be okay, man. I'm not worried about it. You're worried about how many people are watching me. I have news for you, bro. And I don't mean to brag. But the first quarter just ended. 2025, first quarter just ended. I'm just letting you know. We got to make them quarterly payments. I'm sitting over here 6 figures deep. Only off of 40 people watching, I'm making 6 figures in 3 months. Oh, man, that's a beautiful feeling, bro. You don't know what it is, man. It's cool, though. I'm taking my pops to Hawaii. Shout out to Willie Bobo. Taking my girl to Hawaii. And I'm living the best life I could ever live. And only 40 people watch me. It's fucking amazing, bro. It's beautiful. I don't know what to tell you, man. The hate is strong. The money's stronger. Hey, and when you started watching me do these videos, I was in a 2-bedroom apartment. I live on a golf course now, bro. I got white neighbors. I got white gardeners. You can't fuck with me. I got white gardeners, bro. I made it, bro. You can't get me down, dude. Can't get me down. 40 motherfuckers in here. Jamal Adams. How many people you got watching you, bro? Who's watching you? Your own girl don't watch you, bro. She don't sweat you. She wants you to leave and never come back. Your girl hopes you get in a car accident on the way to Walmart right now. I'm being real. Because she really wants to be with Marcus, not Jamal. Jamal Adams rocking this, bro. Why you look like this, Jamal? Jamal, why are you letting down the stereotype, bro? Jamal, I'm serious, dude. Why do your knees touch when you sit in the car in the passenger seat? Why are those knees touching, bro? What's going on? I want to know why you wear medium-sized shirts. And why you stand with your hands in your back pockets, bro. Explain it to me, Jamal. Why are you afraid to walk down a dark hallway, bro? What's wrong with you? Smell like shit in here. Jamal, were you here? Only 40 motherfuckers. Get your shit together. No tight end group tomorrow. We're going to take a couple days off. I actually have to do UFC fights tomorrow, and those take up a lot of my time. So I'll be doing UFC Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So we'll probably get back to the tight end group on Sunday. Just so you're aware, J-Co. Thank you for asking the question. I probably should have made that announcement earlier in the show. Jacoby George. Love him. Rewind the show. I talked about him. Think he's a good player. Hope he shows out. He's got a lot of potential. He needs to just live up to the potential. I was upset to see Silas Bolden not get any run with Texas this year. He was a beast with the Beavers, messed up hitting the portal. So you think a player messed up by hitting the portal, right? Let's explain this. These players are not messing up by hitting the portal. They might not be as productive at their new school, but they're actually doing something that they love, and they're getting paid to do it. They might have never been paid to do it in their life. Like, he's never going to make money from football, ever, in his life. But this year, he got a chance to make money from football. Think about that. Like, right now, you're never going to get paid hating on me. But what if somebody offered you money to hate on me? Wouldn't it be the coolest thing in the world? Yeah, he finally made money off of football for the first time in his life, and he'll never do it again. You can't fault him for that. He didn't get to see the field. He don't care. Money's money, bro. The coach didn't put me in. Kind of like when the Raiders drafted Hayward Bay, just because you're fast, coaches think they can make something out of nothing, out of one trade. Oh, all day long, asked Brady. All day long, asked Brady. Oh, my goodness. So do you think Travis Hunter will eventually end up playing more wide receiver than corner? Do you think he will get cooked in the league at cornerback? So, Alex, these are some loaded questions. First and foremost, every corner gets cooked at some point. I have no idea what team he's going to. So what team drafts you is very important. You need to understand, is Jacksonville drafting T-Mac or are they drafting Travis Hunter? So that's number one. Okay, you have to know what team's drafting you. At that point, then you can decide whether or not you're going to play more wide receiver or corner. Personally, he's not in my top 10 at wide receiver. And I think he's probably better as a wide receiver. I think if you put him at corner, he's a liability. You're going to blow past him. He's good in zone coverage. But then we know what we're running, right? Can McMillan block? Does he have the yak? All that stuff is irrelevant to me. I'm not, oh my God. Who is drafting wide receivers for how they block? You can talk about blocking as a metric. You can talk about it as a pro or con. Just like you can talk about a running back and his pass pro. It's not why you're drafting these guys. That sounds absurd. You believe that shit? You look at a star wide receiver and you mention, can he block? What? We got all these receivers to assess how they run, catch routes, score touchdowns, do all this shit. And you're talking about how they block? That's not how we're drafting guys, bro. That's silly. This is the dumbest shit I ever heard. Oh, he's not a 5-star. Why? Oh, he doesn't block very well. He's not first. He doesn't block really well. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, where does this come from? How did Marvin Harrison Jr. block? How does Tank Dell block? The fuck are you talking about? The guy's 6'5". He blocks out the sun. Get real, bro. 40 people that are quality. Oh, Lewis Henson, shout out to you. You know, Lewis been here a long time. Lewis been here for years. And Lewis knows that I have the same energy if 13 people are watching me or 1,300 are watching me. Doesn't matter. That's how you know you're great. You don't worry about it, man. You keep going. And here's the crazy thing. I don't have to do these podcasts. I don't have to do these live streams. I don't have to do these rankings. I get paid to wake up every day. I don't have to do any of this shit. I do it because I love it. The money I make from this is irrelevant. All my money's made from MVPs. YouTube pays me $2,000 a month. TikTok pays me $2,000 a month. That's $4,000 a month. Motherfucker, I make $50,000 more a month. More than $50,000 a month. You think I'm sweating for? I do this because I love it, man. And I don't really give a shit what you think. I really don't. When I'm done with this, I go sit on the couch with my girl, and we never think about it again. You motherfuckers sitting in the comments writing all day long, paying for my next vacation, paying for my daughter's travel volleyball, paying for my daughter's AAU basketball. You motherfuckers keep messing around, you're going to buy me a new car. Keep messing around, you're going to buy me a new car. And that's the last thing I ever do. And I never spend it. You idiots don't know. You guys don't know the half. Thoughts on Jalen Lane? I believe Jalen Lane probably ran himself into a draft pick. That's what I think. Jalen Lane ran so well at the combine, he probably ran himself into a draft pick, which is awesome. Because this is a young man who, when he transferred to Virginia Tech, just kind of fell off the map for the first year. Didn't quite live up to height. Ali Jennings was still in a lot of the highlights, right? And maybe your quarterback's not that good. But when you see a guy run like that, you go, hey, if he had a real quarterback, whew, he could have been doing something special. Could you imagine Jalen Lane, Western Kentucky? He would have been putting up real numbers. So we don't worry about his production in college. We look at his traits and his attributes, and it looks like he has elite traits. I'm good with it. I like Jalen Lane right now. I think he ran himself into a draft pick for sure. You know who's a good blocking wide receiver? Allen Lazard. And that dude stinks. I bet he don't stink. I bet he don't stink half as bad as Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams, I could smell the cocoa butter on his upper lip, bro. Shout out to Jamal Adams. Sorry ass, bro. What's up, Jamal? I'd love to meet you, dude. Jamal, you probably come up to my ankles, bro. Because you be laid out. Hey, Rico, can I get your opinion on Isaac Tisla? Looked like he did pretty well at the Senior Bowl and performed better than most people expected at the Combine. So, yeah, man, playing in your underwear, looking the part. Looking the part. I've never really been a Tisla guy. And I remember when all the hype showed up because he was super productive at the Division II level. But I can't help. But who was that kid who came out of UMass a couple years ago, second-round pick? Anthony Isabella? I can't help but go that Isabella vibe for this dude. If anybody starts believing in him, that's on you. I don't. That's on you. That I'm just not there. So it is what it is. I'm not that high on Tisla. I don't care what he does at the Combine. I don't care what he did at the Senior Bowl. I watched him on tape, and I just went, okay. Looks like an Arkansas wide receiver now. And I wasn't too impressed. So I keep improving your draft stock. an NFL team believes in you, go for it. When I make my assessments sometimes I just annotate it down in my notes and I just go, all right, that guy's not good. For whatever reason. And you start running faster, everybody improves. I'm just like, all right, I'd rather rock with dudes that I've been impressed with from the jump. And he's not one. It is what it is. I already talked about Daniel Jackson multiple times. Just rewind the show. Thoughts on Emeka? Rewind the show. I already talked about it. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for asking me those questions. Sorry we didn't take so long tonight. But usually you just want to hit it and quit it and get it out, bro. I'm good. Only 40 people. Nobody cares. This guy said 40 people. You don't count the people watching on TikTok? We don't do that? Okay. It's all good, man. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. I hope you guys learned something about the wide receivers in the NFL draft. Don't forget, I will be live streaming the entire draft on YouTube like we are now. I'll be live streaming it. You guys can come watch the draft with me. I'll talk you through all the picks, make analysis, do my thing, and we'll get it right like we do every single year. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Peace, y'all.